The Drop-Off at Blackwood Heights, Part 2. Welcome back to Blackwood Heights. The fluorescent hum of the gas station bathroom was the last bit of normal Elias would feel all night. He stepped out, nodding a silent thanks to the attendant, a man who looked as exhausted as Elias felt, and pushed through the glass door. The night air didn't just feel cold, it felt wrong. The forecast had promised a clear moonlit sky, but a sudden bruised purple overcast had swallowed the stars, and a biting wind began to whip trash across the asphalt in violent circles. Then, his pocket vibrated. He pulled the phone out, the screen's glare harsh against the sudden gloom. There it was, the sleek, void black box with gold lettering. Black tier order. Elias froze. The notification didn't just sit on the screen, it seemed to pulse, vibrating with an intensity that made his thumb ache. Payout: $1,000. The number was a lifeline, but looking at it felt like looking at a predatory animal. After what happened last night, the silence of that house, the way the shadows seemed to have weight, the money in his pocket just felt heavy, like it was made of lead instead of paper. The wind surged, a low moan through the nearby power lines that sounded almost like a warning. He knew he should let the timer run out. He knew he should stay in the light of the gas station and wait for a normal, boring grocery run. But his bank account was a hollow pit, and the dream of finally moving out his back seat was slipping away. His mind screamed no, but his body moved on its own. His thumb hovered, trembling, before plunging down on the accept button. The screen glitched for a millisecond, a flash of static that looked almost like a distorted face, before the details loaded. Destination: house number 116, Blackwood Heights. His stomach dropped into his shoes. The same street. Just 2 doors down from the house that was already haunting his sleep. He scrolled down to the instructions. They were identical to the night before, but the font seemed sharper, more aggressive. Drop the order. Grab the money. Leave. Do not be late. The final phrase didn't just read like text. It echoed in his head, a rhythmic, pounding chant that matched the beat of his heart. Do not be late. Do not be late. He climbed into his car, the engine turning over with a reluctant, metallic wheeze. As he punched the address into his GPS, the blue line of the route didn't look like a path to anywhere safe. It looked like a fuse. Every fiber of his being told him to cancel, to throw the phone out the window, and drive until he hit the coast. Instead, he shifted into gear and pulled out of the light, disappearing into the hungry dark of the road. When Elias pulled onto the street leading to Blackwood Heights, he expected the proud black iron gates and the pristine sentry house he'd seen only 24 hours ago. Instead, the headlights hit a carcass. The entrance was a skeletal ruin. Thick choking vines had strangled the iron bars, and the guard shack was a hollowed-out shell, its windows shattered like sightless eyes. The moonlight didn't illuminate the Blackwood Heights sign. It bled over it, highlighting the way the wood was splintering under the weight of the creeping vegetation. As he crawled forward, the gate didn't just slide open. It heaved. A hollow metallic groan erupted from the hinges, a sound so deep and jagged, it felt like a scream vibrating through Elias's own teeth. It stopped abruptly, leaving just enough room for his car to squeeze through. The moment his rear tires crossed the threshold, the world went silent. The wind, the rustle of trees, the hum of the distant city. Gone. The neighborhood had transformed. The houses didn't just look unkempt. They looked defeated. Yards were battlefields of waist-high weeds, and vines clawed at the corners of the homes like silent green fingers, pulling them into the earth. Every dark window he passed felt like an open mouth, and that cold sense of being watched intensified until Elias felt a prickle of sweat down his spine despite the chill of the night. The GPS began to loop. The blue line spun in circles, leading him down winding cracked streets that felt like a labyrinth. He had passed number 110 and number 112 just fine the night before, but now the road seemed to stretch, the distance between numbers expanding into an impossible void. Then he hit the brakes so hard that the tires shrieked. To his right sat a massive vacant lot. A for sale sign leaned at a sickening angle, half buried in the dirt. In faded, peeling letters, it read, Lot number 114. Elias stared, his breath hitching. There was a house here last night. He remembered the Victorian towers, the heavy porch, the weight of the architecture. Now there was only a patch of dirt where the weeds were slightly shorter, as if a massive weight had been lifted off the ground and moved. He looked forward, blinking against the glare of his own dashboard. He gasped, jumping back in his seat. House number 116 was suddenly looming in the distance, where only empty road had stood before, a faint flicker of the porch light illuminating the darkness. He whipped his head back to look at the empty lot of number 114. It was gone. Where the lot had been a second ago, there was now only a dense, impenetrable wall of trees. He hadn't moved. The car hadn't rolled. The world had simply shifted while he wasn't looking. Get it done, Elias. He hissed, his voice trembling in the cabin. Get the money. Go home. Delete the app. Get a real job. He forced the car forward. The driveway of number 116 wasn't a path. It was a tunnel. The trees on either side leaned in, their branches interlocking overhead like a canopy of bone. At the end of the dark tunnel, the same single porch light flickered, a weak, rhythmic pulse of yellow. As the trees finally broke open, the house revealed itself. It was the exact same Victorian mansion from the night before. Same peeling paint, same oppressive energy. But somehow it looked to be in better condition than any other property he'd passed. As the headlights swept over the door, the brass numbers didn't say 114 anymore. They gleamed with a cold, mocking light. Number 116. Strengthening his resolve, Elias grabbed the bag from the front seat and stepped out. The silence of the neighborhood was absolute, a heavy, pressurized quiet that made the blood rush in his ears. He kept his head down, jaw locked, focusing entirely on the rhythmic movement of his sneakers against the stone. Just drop it off. Grab the money and leave, he whispered. The mantra was the only thing keeping his legs from buckling. Every step up the porch felt like wading through deep water. The air near the house was colder, bitter and smelling of wet earth and ancient dust. He reached the top step, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He didn't look at the door. He didn't look at the glass. He bent down, his spine prickling with a distinct, electric sensation of 1,000 eyes pinned to his back. Thud. The sound came from directly behind the heavy oak door, a deep, meaty vibration that shook the floorboards beneath his feet. Elias lunged for the envelope under the mat, his fingers scratching frantically at the rough fibers, but finding no purchase. Panic rushed through his veins like ice-cold water. Flash! A violent strobe-like burst of white light erupted from the center of the door. It wasn't just a light. It was a physical blow. Elias shrieked, his vision shattering into a kaleidoscope of jagged purple spots. In the same microsecond, a vacuum-like whoosh sucked the air out of the porch. The grocery bag was gone. Slam! The door struck the frame with a sound like a bone breaking. The force of the air pressure sent Elias reeling. He stumbled back, his heel catching on the lip of the top step. He flailed, catching nothing but thin, freezing air before he tumbled backward. He hit the gravel driveway with a sickening crunch. The stones bit into his palms and the back of his head. He lay there, gasping, his lungs seized by the shock. His vision was a chaotic mess of swirling darkness and white-hot static. The remnants of that violent flash burned into his retinas. Panic flared, a hot, oily surge of adrenaline. Elias struggled to right himself, his hands slipping on the loose, cold gravel. He scrambled to a seated position, praying to all the gods that his feet could find grip amongst the soft gravel, continuing to blink rapidly, trying to clear the blindness. The purple spots danced and flickered, obscuring the world, but as they began to drift apart, the house loomed over him, a jagged, oppressive silhouette against the bruised sky. Through the ringing in his ears, a voice began to pulse. It wasn't his own. It was a distorted, multi-layered rasp that seemed to vibrate from the air itself, whispering directly into his inner ear. Leave. The word was a rhythmic throb in his temples. Leave. Leave. His breath came in ragged, shallow hitches. In the confusion, his eyes dragged themselves upward, searching for a reference point, a piece of reality to grab onto. His gaze locked onto the second-story window, the dark, glassy eye of a bedroom. There, pressed against the pane, was a pale, elongated blur. Because of the spots still searing his vision, Elias couldn't make out the details. It was a humanoid shape, impossibly tall and perfectly still. Its face, if it had one, lost in a smooth, featureless haze behind the glass. Just as the realization of what he was looking at hit him, a new line of text seared itself into his mind, spoken by that same haunting, many-layered voice. Do not look in the windows.